Good evening, everybody. It is 6:30 p.m. Monday, June 16, 2025. This is the Kearney Board of Aldermen meeting. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunday, have you had a chance to take roll?
I have taken roll. Everyone is present. You have the quorum.
Thank you. We'll move on to public hearings, personal appearances this evening. The first item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing to receive public comments regarding an application made by Deer Valley LLC to rezone 7.405 acres from C General Commercial District to RP1 Low Density Residential Plan District with concept plan for the proposed Cottonwood Creek 5th Plat area, proposing 22 single-family lots. If you wish to speak for or against the application, we'll have you come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Floor is open for public comments. Do we have anybody online, David? Seeing nobody move, I will close the floor for public comments and input. Next item this evening is open public comments. Is there any resident that lives inside the city limits of Kearney that will wish to address your board this evening? Seeing nobody move, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does the board have any questions or items of discussion on the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, if we can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Consent agenda passes. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda this evening, ordinances. The first item is motion approving bill number 27-2025 presented by David Pavlich, our Community Development Director, an ordinance amending Chapter 205 Animal Regulations pertaining to the keeping of backyard chickens, specifically hens. David, you have the floor.
Yeah, so the ordinance that was presented to you at the previous meeting is back in the packet. At that meeting, the board tabled the item because there was some discussion or public comment about possibly neighbors in a subdivision potentially having chickens on private open space tracts. And we got an opinion from our city attorney who said that that cannot happen the way our ordinance is written, because our ordinance specifically says lots with single family houses on them, and so that would not apply. So this would only deal with single family lots. There was discussion at the last meeting. It seemed that the board was interested in maybe larger lots than the quarter acre that was recommended by planning and zoning. So we did update the ordinance. That's the only change since the last time. So in your packet, you'll see an ordinance that has half an acre or larger.
So the only change from the last time the board reviewed was we got the legal clarification that our current ordinance as written is not going to have any issues with common area.
Right.
And then the only other change is the recommendation to increase the lot size to a half an acre minimum.
It seems like that's what the discussion was about. Board members, I think somebody had asked, well, how many properties are there in the city that are over a half an acre or over a quarter acre? And we did a little analysis on R1 zoning, and mind you, some houses are in our other zoning classifications. It's harder for us to get that information. We can try and acquire some of that, but based on just the R1 zoning, there are about just under 3,700 parcels, and a little over 1,700 or 47% are at least a quarter of an acre. Properties over a half an acre are about 256 properties, so less than 10% of those. In areas not zoned R1, so R2 or R3 or even commercial, our downtown area, our older part of town, north of 92, we have some larger properties, so along Christian Ridge, Prospect Street. We have some smaller properties and some larger properties, so we can get additional information, but just based on R1 zoning, a quarter acre or more would be about half of the single family lots, and over a quarter acre would be about half of those lots, and 10% or a little under 10% would be over half an acre. That helps the board.
Very well. Are there any other questions from the board to staff on his report? Are there, our planning and zoning liaison, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I know there was lots and lots of discussion about item number 5 under section 1. And I've gotten some phone calls about that. There's a lot of people that don't like that because of the, if your neighbor has hens and you have dogs and your dog's gonna bark, but yeah, as this ordinance is written, the individual with a dog would be the one penalized. And there was lots of talk at P&Z about that. So I personally don't like that aspect of it. My other comments would be, I still think we need to have a permit and a fee, because our animal control officer is going to be the one that's going to regulate this. And we're essentially creating an ordinance without any funding to compensate for her time. So we're going to require her to regulate this, but there's no money coming back to the city to cover that. So those are my comments.
Any other comments from the board?
I'm delighted that it is up to the half acre. I think that's a good compromise. I know a few communities had it at an acre, and I thought that the quarter acre was too small to keep a setback so that it's not quite as big of a nuisance to the dogs, etc. I perhaps read number 5 a bit differently than he does. I think that this says that the keeping of hens shall not create a nuisance, including excessive noise. And if your hens are making the neighbor dogs bark, I think it comes back to the chicken owner personally, because if the dogs previously were not a nuisance or big barkers, I don't know. And I perhaps interpret it just a bit differently.
Well, that question was actually posed to our community development director in P&Z.
Yeah.
And the answer
And
was,
what did legal say?
well, I don't know about legal, but
Okay.
our community development director stated that it would be the dog that would be
In trouble?
in trouble.
That's what the city attorney said too.
Which
because-
to me would make sense, right? Would be the dog owner's responsibility to not have their dog be a nuisance to anybody.
But if they're not a nuisance before, and the chickens are creating the dog barking, that was what was brought up at P&Z. So,
Any other feedback? I will say, Alderman Lehman, not to just disagree with everything you're saying tonight, but it's my thought that, we're putting forth for consideration again, at least the 4th or 5th time in as many years, the consideration to allow backyard chickens inside the city limits, obviously because it's the request of our constituents who we serve. And I've heard 50-50. I've heard residents that want it. I've heard residents that don't want it. But every single constituent that has contacted me and asked for the consideration brings up the economical fact of it and the cost of eggs, the ability to, on your own, be able to raise your own food and things. And I could be surprised, especially with us hearing the half-acre numbers. It doesn't seem like that, less than 10% of our homes or roughly would be eligible under the proposed ordinance. I don't think that that's going to create an excessive workload for our animal control officer. And I guess my thought, and I'm one word, one voice on this board, obviously, but is that we fee and permit enough. And I don't think that the keeping of a half dozen or so hens in your yard is something that the city should have their hands in as far as for permitting purposes. I hope I don't have to eat crow on that and it doesn't become an issue though. Okay, I think everybody's had the opportunity to share your thoughts on the proposed ordinance. If we could read the proposed ordinance on the first reading by title only for consideration, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 205 Animal Regulations pertaining to the keeping of backyard chickens, hens.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Second reading by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 205 Animal Regulations pertaining to the keeping of backyard chickens, hens.
Make a motion to approve on second read. I'll second.
Pull the board, please.
Alderman King,
Aye.
Alderman Holt,
Aye.
Alderman Lehman,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and the ordinance passes on the second reading. Next item this evening is a motion approving bill number 31, 2025, presented by David Pavlich, our Community Development Director. An ordinance amending Chapter 400 of the Municipal Code, the Comprehensive Zoning Regulations of Kearney, Missouri, rezoning approximately 7.405 acres at the northwest corner of Nation Road and Cottonwood Creek Avenue to RP1, Low Density Residential Plan District, as requested by the applicant Deer Valley LLC. David?
Chris Shipley's in the audience today, I believe, representing Deer Valley tonight. Cottonwood Creek subdivision is at the northwest quadrant of Nation Road and 92 Highway. The original rezoning and preliminary plat were approved in 2017. Had 100 single-family lots, and then an area zoned commercial along the Nation Road frontage and the 92 Highway frontage. Since that time, all of the single-family lots have been built on. None of the commercial area has been built on. They are proposing to rezone some of that commercial area back to R1 single-family as Cottonwood Creek fifth plat. The proposed rezoning of RP1. Plan district is proposed because some of the lots are not, they don't meet our minimum size requirement and/or they don't meet our minimum dimension requirements, but the overall density does comply with our R1 district. The original rezoning was also RP1 because some of the lots didn't meet our width requirement at the time. As long as the density is compliant, there's a recommendation of approval. 7.4 acres would be rezoned from commercial to RP1 for 22 single-family lots. And planning and zoning recommended approval, recommends the board receive this ordinance.
Alderman Lehman, do you have anything to add to that report?
Not a whole lot. There were several people at the public hearing at P&Z that live in the lots that would abut the lots on the west side of what's being called Briar Lane. Their biggest complaint was water and water ponding. The engineer for Deer Valley was here and stated that there is actually going to be a 1-foot berm that goes right along the property line between this plat and I guess that's fourth plat.
Yes.
So that any water created by this plat would stay on this side the water that's on the fourth plat would stay on the fourth plat. He also stated that these lots are graded so that the lots on the east side and west side of Briar Lane the water would flow to the street or to the back of the lots. The only part of the lots on the east or west side of Briar Lane that would flow back toward the property lines are behind the houses on the west side of Briar Lane. So it seemed like the engineer answered the people's questions, so.
Very well. I would assume, and you know, it's never a good idea to assume, but I would think that the neighboring property owners would appreciate more single-family homes as their neighbor instead of the current previous zoning as commercial. So I think it's a good fit for the property and a much needed product for our community. So any other questions from the board on the proposed ordinance?
Will this cause more of an issue just west of the roundabout as far as water overflowing on 92?
There's a detention basin there that would stop it. At least that's what the engineer.
There will be.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you look in 5B on the plat down at the bottom west corner, there's a retention basin that would catch all that and stop it from going to 92 or 33, 92. It's one of them roads.
Any other questions? Now if we could read the proposed ordinance in the first reading by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 400 of the Municipal Code, the Comprehensive Zoning Regulations of Kearney, Missouri, rezoning approximately 7.405 acres at the northwest corner of Nation Road and Cottonwood Creek Avenue to RP1 Low Density Residential Plan District as requested by Deer Valley LLC.
Move to approve on first reading.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 400 of the Municipal Code, the Comprehensive Zoning Regulations of Kearney, Missouri, rezoning approximately 7.405 acres at the northwest corner of Nation Road and Cottonwood Creek Avenue to RP1 Low Density Residential Plan District as requested by Deer Valley LLC.
Make a motion on second reading.
Second that.
Pull the board, please.
Alderman Holt,
Aye.
Alderman Lehman,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman King.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous and ordinance passes on the second reading. Mr. Shipley, appreciate you and your partners' continued investment in Kearney.
You bet.
Thank you, sir. Next item this evening is a motion approving bill number 32, 2025, presented by Shelley Daniel, our Public Works Director, an ordinance approving the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Sidewalk Improvements Supplemental Agreement.
Okay,
Shelley?
Yeah, good afternoon or evening. This ordinance is just to amend an already existing sidewalk agreement we have with MoDOT for our Mac Porter Park Connector Shared Use Path Trail and Future Trail. The original agreement just didn't mention that we were going to maintain the retaining wall that was in the plan that was showed to the public. And so this just further defines that we will maintain the trail that we're going to construct with the sidewalk.
Thank you for that report. Any questions from the board on the proposed ordinance? Seeing none, if we can read the proposed ordinance, the first reading by title only, please.
An ordinance approving the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Sidewalk Improvements Supplemental Agreement.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading by title only, please.
An ordinance approving the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Sidewalk Improvements Supplemental Agreement.
Move to approve on second reading.
I'll second.
Pull the board, please.
Alderman Lehman,
She asked for your vote. Sorry, I interrupted you. She asked for your vote.
No, aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman King,
Aye.
Alderman Holt.
Aye.
Vote is unanimous and ordinance passes on the second reading. We have no resolutions this evening. The only item for review is our May monthly financial report that is presented by Stephanie Harris, our finance director.
Good evening, everyone. 2 months, we are looking at the financials for the month ended May 31st, 2025. So 2 months into our fiscal year, or 17%. Not a lot of different position than we were in last month. Everything looks right on track or reasonable. And if it doesn't, like capital outlay in the general fund, or what else is really different? Sewer capital improvement fund revenues. Those things are related to timing issues. Capital improvements, the police force has been out purchasing their new equipment and their new vehicles. So it's just a timing issue, and the sewer issue is a one-time transfer. So things that we did are happening sooner, and it's more than 17% of the expense that has already occurred, or revenue that has already been received. So nothing alarming, nothing concerning. If you guys have questions.
Any questions of our finance director in the monthly report? Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to mayor's communications. Want to welcome 3 scouts that we have this evening with us from Troop 360. So welcome. Glad you guys can be here this evening, and if you guys have any questions, I'll stick around afterwards. I'll be happy to visit with you. Thank you for being here. Next item is, I noticed Monday or Tuesday of last week driving through my old neighborhood, I noticed our street crews, Donnie, Zach, Cullen, Jack, and crew proactively replacing sidewalk on Stonecrest Drive. That's been a long time coming. I know we've continually improved our sidewalks in our community. We have a long list that we're got to tackle still, but having the crew and staff where we can do that stuff in-house now, we have the equipment to do in-house, allows us to obviously get more bang for our buck. Sidewalks are looking great, and curbing, as I've noticed some curbing as well. So Shelley, hats off to you and your crew for hard work. That concludes our mayor's communications. We'll move on to city administrator's report.
The only thing I have is just a reminder that the next regular board meeting will be Monday, July 7th, right here at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to alderman discussion. Alderman Spencer.
I would just like to give a huge shout out to city staff and Sheila for the planters at the corners. It was brought to my attention by several of our citizens that they were not planted yet, and they felt that we should be very aware of our downtown and keeping it looking sharp if we want others to keep their areas looking sharp. So the planters now are full and very pretty. So thank you.
Great. Alderman Lehman.
A couple of things. I too always enjoy seeing the scouts here. My guess is they're either here for the communications merit badge or citizenship in the community. So I was getting there. As well as one of our finest in a different uniform tonight than what he normally wears. So it's always good to see young men and some not so young men here representing a truly organization that makes men out of boys. So, and a little bit elated, but I wanted to say kudos to our trash service, Redgate. we had our spring cleanup and I drove around town and there was more stuff out this time than I think I've ever seen. And I actually talked to the crew that was in my area, and they said that Kearney just blew them away as far as the amount of bulky items that were out to curb. So they actually had every truck that they own in Kearney on those days picking up trash. And they said it just absolutely blew them away. But the good thing about it is when it was all said and done, everything was gone. And so it's nice to finally have a trash service that cares about our community. And I've seen drivers actually get out and pick up stuff that's come out of the bins and landed on the ground. They actually get out of the truck and pick it up and put it in the bin and they'll dump it again. So it's nice to see that kind of service. So kudos to Red Gates. So.
I recently got a similar feedback from a resident. They watched their trash get dumped and not intentionally, but some of the trash fell out instead of just driving away like we were used to see it happen. The driver immediately parked the truck, got out and picked it up.
Yeah.
Last week, the truck on my route broke down during the route, and usually that would cause a 3-day delay for the whole city. So I was waiting to see if we needed to make an announcement or do anything, but a couple hours later, they had a service truck repairing another truck and another truck filling in the route. So it's nice to have a company that does what you pay them to do. Small things, right?
Yep.
So that include your comments, Alderman Holt?
I just want to give a kudos to our Parks Department. We had a concert this last week, and I was sitting up with a bunch of people. Some of them was from Lawson and from Rayville area, and they had never been to our park to see a concert, and they were blown away by how nice our park was and how our amphitheater was. And I was telling them that, yeah, that's actually our sound system that we're using, and they thought that was awesome. And it was fairly well attended. We had a great night. The weather was perfect, and I just want to say thank you. The park really looked awesome, and people from out of town, they noticed it. It was really cool.
Alderman Key?
I don't have a whole lot.
All right. Well, that concludes our meeting this evening. If we can entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?